Well, watching documentary after documentary after documentary about girls and women who have been kidnapped and for years. And it doesn't matter whether it makes sense or not to anyone else. I identify very strongly with a lot of those cases, if not all of them. And I said in one video recently that what you need to get over this is a supportive family or some sort of support network. And funnily enough, I've just seen one of the documentaries that actually said that. And what really occurs to me is that I don't feel as if I was imprisoned by my parents in my parents' home. I was imprisoned in it. Largely by fear, largely by illness. The one attempt I made to escape was in May 1971 when I was 16 and 9 months, roughly. And that had horrendous consequences for me. And I was returned straight back to my father, of course. My brother remarked on my OCD, although neither of us, I suspect at that time, knew that phrase. But he asked me why I took so long in the bathroom. And he said that I must scrub every inch of myself. Oh, I must divide myself into 1-inch squares or something, scrub each of them 1,000 times. He was not far off. But having commented on that, that was it, and he was back, gone again. It was something like 2007. When he finally texted me one day and said, "What happened to you while you were still in school? You changed overnight." And unfortunately I texted back, "On which occasion?" Although I'm quite certain that the occasion he meant was when my father gave me crab lice, which changed me so profoundly that a former boyfriend, when he came back for me, thought I was a different person. Genuinely, he thought I was a different person. Well, I was. And it also pointed out, this particular documentary, that in that kind of situation you miss out on a lot of formative experiences. Well, it never even occurred to me to go out with a boy of my own age. Never crossed my mind. I was convinced I was worthless for anything except sex. And the only men I was remotely interested in were men of about my father's age. And I've already said I only went out after dark about once a week, and on those nights I would invariably find someone. To me, that was the measure of my worth. And that was the impression that my parents had spent my lifetime giving me. And they didn't just give that impression to me. They gave it to my extended family. I should backtrack again to some of my brother's messages about the opinion he held of me. He even thought I was on drugs, which I was not. It never occurred to him to offer me help. It never occurred to him. Where are you supposed to go when between the ages of 16 and 21 you have extremely severe OCD? I was 8 hours at a time in the bathroom, and about 16 hours a day sleeping, so that took care of every day of my life, apart from those nights out after dark, once a week or so. I remember one occasion when the police took me home, having picked me up at about 2 in the morning, and I had walked from Top Rank to 21 Forest Hills Drive. I don't know what the distance is, but it's a fair one. Top Rank was in Bannister Road, somewhere near Staggates. And they told my mother I was easy meat, quote unquote. I was self-harming to the extent that my face had claw marks all over it. Nobody commented. And then, of course, after I'd had a baby, that was really and truly it. And presumably the reason they didn't object too much when I took her home. Because after that, there really was nowhere for me to go at all. The OCD kind of morphed into anorexia and bulimia, or some combination thereof. And that was another 5 years. I have said all this in previous videos, it's just seeing it through different eyes. You can be imprisoned without there being bolts on the doors. And if it seems to others that I should not compare myself to these women for whom there were bolts on the doors, I'm sorry, but I do make that comparison because I had the same sort of relationship with my parents as they had with their captors. To the extent that when I was finally given a council flat for my daughter and I, on the day that I moved in, I had a panic attack, the first of my life, halfway between my parents' house and my new home, 2.5 miles away. I didn't have a clue what was happening. I'd never had a panic attack before. So I went along to the doctor and he told me that was what it was. My brother asked me why he wasn't invited to my wedding. He seemed really upset about it. Well, that was in 1980, approximately 9 years after he'd observed that things were not right with me. No, 10 years after. But I don't think that's the reason I didn't invite him. I didn't invite him because I had suffered the stigma of being an unmarried mother, which he'd put in his 2 penn'orth worth about, and so had his wife. It was a registry office wedding. It was planned some 11 or 12 days before the wedding itself. And we only had 3 guests, i.e. my husband's mother and my 2 parents. Life is so full of little ironies. I'm pretty sure there was a reception, and I'm pretty sure that he was there, but I don't remember for certain. And I suppose he doesn't either. It was just so much of what was said really hit home with me. Things about first dates and first loves and first this and first that. Well, I missed out on all of those. I went straight from having crab lice given to me by my father to a promiscuous lifestyle with the kind of people I assumed would have me. And of course there was another reason why I wasn't interested in boys of my own age, and that was the way that they had treated me while I was in school. Boys had been my enemy. Well, I'm sure I have said most or all of this on previous tapes, but it's just, as I say, looking at it in a different way. I didn't feel as if I could escape them. I never felt as if I could escape them. And if they hadn't both died, I never would have escaped them. As much as I grieved for my mother when she died, and as horrific as the circumstances of her death were, I have to say my life improved tremendously after she was dead. Hugely. And the weird thing is that the same cannot be said of my father's death. Possibly because at the back of my mind I wasn't satisfied that he really was dead. What I do remember, however, is that in that year that I turned 40, I had the first orgasm of my life after I believed my father to be dead.